Hello, my darlings. Good morning and welcome to day 4 of the 31 Days of Horror. Yes, and today I bring you The Cats by Nick Sharman. And this book is from 1977 and it is a first paperback edition of the New English Library. It's its first edition. When it was brand new, it was 75 pence and I paid £25 for it. Well, basically because they're getting rarer and harder to find. So, what's new, pussycats? Whoa, indeed. We go from pussy galore to pussy no more. Yes, absolutely. And this picture on the front is one of the centennial cats. Yes, I'll explain. I will explain. I'll read you the blurb on the back first. It was a hot, humid day in London. In a basement flat, a young boy was involved in strange experiments. There was a sudden power failure. Within a few short hours, the city will become a horrifying cauldron of fear and carnage. The police, the army, the scientists, no one seems to be able to stop the cats. Yes, it's as balmy as it looks. It's absolutely bonkers from start to finish. There are only 160 pages, so you could probably read it in one sitting, which is kind of what I did because I was hooked from the moment I started reading it. I absolutely adore it. And to say this book's nearly 50 years old, it's in remarkably good condition. And if you knew what was sat behind me, I've got a little Monty, which I'll show you in a little bit. He's just cuddling up to me because it's nice and warm. Wow, where do I start? There are so many delicious, beautiful, well-written, gory, glorious, gruesome scenes in this book. It was really hard for me to pick which ones I was going to do for you, but I've chosen 3 and there are so many more. It is an utterly fantastic, brilliantly gruesome, gloriously gory read from start to finish. It's done in the vein of The Rats by James Herbert, but Nick puts his own emphasis this. He puts his own slant on it, and it's not quite what you think. I mean, psychotic, vicious cats. They're okay when they're the right temperature. That is quite important within the book. Anyway, this is dedicated for my brother Stuart, without whose flat and typewriter we would have never have had the cats. It's just such a good, rollickingly good read. It's funny, it's gruesome, it's shocking. The death scenes are brutal and hilarious. It's just so different from anything else that you will ever read about cats. And it's just bonkers. Absolutely mental it is. But could it happen? I suppose if we get the cats to the right temperature, we'll find out. But you don't want to go here, kitty, 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 because it's going to go bitey, bitey, bitey. Indeed it will. We first meet a young student called Mark Dempsey, who is taking care of the cats for the scientist John Inglis. John Inglis is the man that caused all this, or was he? Perhaps it was his teacher, Professor Bertram Vole, who was a professor of microbiology at the Cambridge University, where John was one of his students. Now, John took the lessons that Professor Bertram Vole gave him, and instead of just leaving it where it was on paper, decided that it would be a really great idea to see if this actually worked. In what area of God's green earth would you possibly think that genetically altering a cat and to from a normal feline domesticated pussycat to a savage throat-ripping psychotic kitty would be a good idea? But hey, in this world, John thought, why not? I have a caveat to say to this. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And somebody should have taken John to one side and said, listen, mate, we want to give them whiskers. Not our whiskers, but, the tin stuff. We've gone from Felix to Beta, if you like. Oh my goodness me. Yeah. Well, these cats anyway, they're okay at a certain temperature, but if the temperature changes, then they do too. Oh, scary. Anyway, Professor Bertram Vole, unbeknownst to everybody else on planet Earth, has been working at Porton Down under the employment of the government, the germ warfare department, and the military. Yes, that's who Bertram Vole has been working for. And he has already bred a set of cats and has introduced this bacterium into the cats and changed their temperature. So Bertram knows exactly what these cats are capable of because they ate his lab assistant. Yes, you want to have go cat? Well, these cats certainly had a go cat. Yes, they ate him. They ate his liver and with some fava beans and a good Chianti. They certainly did. Anyway, when John explains to Professor Bertram Vole what he's done, Bertram goes a very, very sickly shade of white and then asks John, have they been kept at a cool temperature? And John assures Professor Bertram that yes, they had. And everything's going okay until he phones his neighbour, does John, to find out, excuse me, to find out if everything's okay back home, because with Professor Bertram telling him about what happens when they get too hot and they turn into savage beasts, John panics and thinks, oh, I better phone home just to make sure everything's okay. Cue John finds out from his neighbour that there's been a power cut. John then goes into a massive, oh no, that means that there's been no air conditioning and it's so hot in London. Yes, so incredibly hot. Oh no, says Bertram Vole, and the rest of England's going to be going, oh no, you don't say. Hot cats. Oh no. So they quickly jump into the car and drive like maniacs all the way back to London to get back to John's flat where he's been doing this illegal experiment. John, what were you thinking? And he gets into the flat and lo and behold, goes into his laboratory. There aren't any cats. The cats have escaped. Oh, flipping heck. In fact, I think the language was slightly stronger than flipping heck, but you can. Ecky thumb. Yes. Oh, ecky thumb. My goodness me. Our cats have escaped and they're all psychotic beasts. What are we going to do? And the only problem is that the bug that the cats have got can easily be spread to all the other cats in London. Now you understand we have a big problem because there are over 3 million domesticated cats in London alone. Yeah, it's getting a little bit tense now, isn't it, everybody? Oh, dearie me. All these kitty cats and whiskers just ain't gonna cut it no more. Oh, no. So, I'm going to take you to my first juicy part. I absolutely adore this book. Oh, didn't need that bookmark now, did we, kiddos? From the foliage at the bottom of the garden came 2 pinpoints of reflected light. The cat, a lithe tabby, sauntered from the trees and came to rest some 15 yards from the dog in the middle of the lawn. It was still for an instant, and then its hackles rose and its legs straightened, its spine arched upwards, and it spat. Then, just as quickly, it was silent again, resuming its relaxed standing position. Its eyes were expressionless slits. Wolf, the guard dog, padded towards the end of his leash, loping down the stairs, displaying no emotion as he moved smoothly forward, as brutally cold as a professional killer. The leather leash taunted. He stopped, stood for a moment sizing up the situation, and lay down flat on his stomach with his paws pointing straight ahead, hind legs tensed, his body compact, coiled, waiting. The cat came forward a few more yards until he was almost within striking distance of the dog. Their eyes locked, and much to Wolf's surprise, the cat showed no fear. With every other animal he had ever met, he had smelled the panic at once. The energizing, tingling stench of terror. But now he could smell no fear at all. If anything, it was quite the opposite, with the cat exuding such a steady, quiet aggression that Wolf's eyes flickered away from its pointed gaze. Even the dog nose. That seemed to act as a signal, as, with bewildering speed, other shadows flitted from the undergrowth. The dog, belly to the ground, was beginning to experience a new emotion, and he edged backwards, hind legs working frantically. He was tasting fear for the first time in his life, and he had no liking for it, none at all. The tabby, When Wolf had steeled himself sufficiently to look at it once more, had been joined by 3 companions. A new shock of fear waved through him as he tried to keep them all in view at once, desperately alert to any sudden movement. To the far right of the tabby was a Siamese, a lilac point with pinkish fur, bat-like ears and piercing blue eyes. On the other side of it stood a Russian blue. A black and white short hair was to the side of that one. None of them stirred, but as Wolf's hind legs began to scramble backwards up the stairs in an ungainly fashion, the 4 cats eased forwards. By the time the dog had reached the door, they were at the base of the stairs. Wolf began to whine softly for his handler for the very first time. It was a sound mixed with shame and fear for Wolf. As he gazed at his enemies, he noticed with an extra thrill of terror that their eyes were no longer devoid of expression, and looking deep into the almond-shaped openings, he could discern a terrible mindless hunger growing there. The huge black dog was hypnotized, transfixed. Its muscles stiffened, its eyes glazed over. Short, sharp bleating sounds of supplication rose from its throat. The Siamese hissed suddenly, and its swishing front paw described an arc through the air. The spell was broken. Wolf snapped to attention, his fear gone. Back in command of himself, there was no hesitation. He pounced forward with startling speed, engulfing the Siamese in a snap of his powerful jaws. The cat screeched as the dog's enormously long, razor-sharp teeth pierced its fur and crushed its internal organs. Wolf tossed the carcass aside nonchalantly and turned to face his remaining would-be assailants. The other cats had retreated to their original position and sat staring first at their dead companion and then into the eyes of the murderous Doberman. The dog emitted a blood-curdling growl from the depths of his throat and bared his gleaming, blood-drenched fangs. Its muscles tensed. It sprang, jaws gaping straight for the tabby. The cat moved swiftly backwards, and the growl stopped dead in Wolf's throat as his head snapped back in mid-flight. The leather leash had brought him up inches short of his target. He lay for a moment on the ground, panting, half choking, trying to regain his breath. He had lost on the impact. The cats were on him at once. The tabby swiped at the fallen giant's eyes, its talons digging parallel grooves into the soft membrane of the pupil. The Russian blue flew straight for the exposed underbelly, teeth sinking savagely into the scrotal sac. The short hair leapt onto the Doberman's back, scratching and tearing ferociously at the sleek fur. Wolf howled in anguish. Summoning all his strength, he struggled to his feet, weaving his head to escape the swiping paws of the insistent tabby. He kicked his hind legs furiously at the blue, which was mauling at his stomach, and violently jerked his whole body to displace the assailant from his back. In a desperate lunge, he twisted and caught the blue in his jaws,
tearing it roughly away from his bleeding testicles. His teeth bit straight through the shrieking animal. As Wolf turned, the tabby leapt straight at his exposed neck and took a firm hold. The Doberman, a new surge of pain acting as a spur to his efforts, rolled over quickly onto his back, crushing the short hair instantly and stunning the tabby. He spat out the blue which he still held between his clenched fangs and rolled swiftly back onto his legs. The tabby, now recovered and lying on the dog's blind side, rushed once more at Wolf's throat. Its small, jagged teeth gained a deadly grip on the main artery. Blood spurted from under the dog's chin. Wolf threshed his head up and down until he had shaken the cat free, and then he started to crawl back towards the house, each painful step accompanied by a rattling sound from his torn throat. As the dog heaved himself up the half-dozen steps leading to the front door, the tabby darted frantically back and forwards across the lawn, hauling the bodies of its dead companions back to the undergrowth at the end of the front lawn. By the time that Wolf had reached the door, the lawn was clear of bodies. The only evidence of the battle was the blood glistening evilly in the pale sunlight like red oil. Wolf slumped on the top step, extended his paw to the door, and scraped at the white paintwork in a last pathetic attempt to gain entrance before his head rolled despairingly over and the stiffness left his sleek body. He lay once more, as if asleep, loose and relaxed, as he had been minutes earlier before the arrival of the cats. Isn't that just the most gruesome end to a most vicious dog? And these cats will take no prisoners, as we find out with darling Kurt, whose hand was shredded into a mass of red bloody meat, our bones staring white and naked up at him, and the laddie thought he was having an acid trip, but he was really being eaten alive by the pussycats. Yes, they don't leave much left of Kurt. He, as the full horror of it all dawned in his tiny, addled, acid-trippy little mind, his life extinguished, receding into a blissful nothingness like a dot on a fading television screen, while they all munched and crunched him. Oh, yes, they did. Pussy-catums. And I'll read you the last little nugget. The kitten gazed up at her appealingly. "Oh, you sweet thing," she murmured, and gently extended her hand. The tiny animal, fawn-coloured and about 9 inches long, kept its startled eyes on the object as it moved towards him. It waited until the hand was no more than an inch away. It opened its mouth and sank its small, sharp teeth firmly into the welcoming flesh. You've got to give this book a read. It's absolutely stark raving, bonkers. And the death of the Doberman from the attack on the cats is probably one of the most famous death scenes in here, although there are some rather hilarious ones which I'm not going to spoil for you because I really, really want you to enjoy this book and read it and have fun, because you are going to have so much fun with this book. It's deliciously dark. It's a wonderful sense of humour running through it. It's very tongue-in-cheek. It's absolutely 1970s, and the way it's written reflects that time. It really does. The men were men and women were glad of it. Yes, they were. And the cats, wow, they should have a song, don't you think? Cats, cats, hear a battle cry. Cats, cats, we'll shout it till we die. We're going over the waterfall, so this is our goodbye. Cats, 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 we'll shout it till we die. I truly, truly hope you give this book a go. It's definitely a 10 out of 10. I'm a massive cat lover, as you know, because I have a beautiful kitten called Monty. What would I do if Monty turned savage? I have no idea. Oh, the poor little guy. There's just no way that I think that Monty could go savage, but if he's infected with this disease, I don't think he'd have much choice. What happens to the main characters is awful, really, truly awful. And everybody loses somebody that they love throughout the entire of the book. It's just such a short read, but it packs so much information, and it's such a good book. You're thoroughly going to enjoy it. I know you will. I know you will. So, my darlings, I will leave you now, and I'll see you on day 5 with another absolute classic. I know I will. Now, if you like what I did, you can always hit the subscribe button. If you really like what I do, you can follow me if you would like. Hit that like button, give us a subscribe. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. And I'll say what I always do. Happy readings, darlings, and enjoy and have fun. That's what these books are for. They're for you to have fun. And you are going to have a lot of fun with the cats. You really are. Because it start raving bonkers from start to finish. I absolutely adore it. I know you are going to adore it too. And if you're in the middle of a thunderstorm, definitely recommend. Red wine, dark chocolate, this book, Roaring Fire. Oh yes. Oh yes, yes, yes. You are going to have the best time. You truly are. Yeah. And until tomorrow, my darlings, take care and happy readings and enjoy. Bye bye.